we've kind of, several minutes into the program tonight, we've done our how do you do's. What stood out from Kids Day at Kinnick? I'll jump in here first, if you don't mind, Zach.
Yeah, feel free.
I said going into the weekend that, look, you have to expect some rust with Mark Gronowski. To anticipate that there wouldn't be any rust with your new quarterback, Mark Gronowski, who is coming off an offseason shoulder cleanup, would be unrealistic. And I think we saw some of that rust from Mark Gronowski. I thought at times he was a little inaccurate. He, of course, had the bad decision play, though many are pointing out, hey, Trevor Lauk probably could have done a better job on the screen that wound up as a pick-6 interception for Cohen Intringer. But that's a decision that I feel like, hey, Gronowski can't make all the same. Whether Lauk didn't do his assignment properly, which I don't think that he did, that's a decision that Gronowski, he just can't make. You can't have those types of interceptions. So there was some, it's got to get cleaned up. I expected for there, Zach, to be some, it's got to get cleaned up from the quarterback, and I thought we saw that from Gronowski. But we also saw some sizzle. I was hoping that we would see some sizzle in the pass game, and we saw it with the 44-yard connection to Seth Anderson. We saw it from another 30-yard plus pass, the deep corner to Reese Vander Zee. A couple of candidates, Zach, that we expect to be big puzzle pieces of this Iowa offense. So I thought that was a great sign for Gronowski, for Iowa, that each of those two receivers that we expect to be two of the big three receivers for the Hawkeyes, they delivered at Kids Day at Kinnick.
Yeah, and the biggest thing that stood out to me was a name you mentioned earlier. Trevor Lauk was the left tackle to begin at Kids Day. Looks like now he has pole position to be that starting left tackle in week 1 versus Albany, which is a battle we've been kind of watching all offseason long. Jack Dotzler was in there. We heard from Logan Jones that Cannon Leonard was kind of competing for that role as well. And so it looks like, at least as of right now, Trevor Lauk has that left tackle spot, as a starter. That could easily change by week 1. That could change after week 1, depending on performance. I think it would benefit Iowa to lock in a left tackle starter. You really don't want to be rotating your starting left tackles during the season. That's not something that usually leads to a bunch of success on the offensive line. And so if it is Trevor Lauk, let him run with the starting line and see how that goes. So that was a big thing that stood out to me. But as you mentioned, we saw the flash from Mark Gronowski with those with those deep passes to Anderson and Vander Zee, a couple of guys that were looking to make some plays on the offensive side of the ball. We saw the rest of the quarterback room look good as well. I know Jackson Stratton didn't play at Kids Day. He's dealing with a bit of an injury, I believe, according to Kirk Ferentz. But we did see Hank Brown, and he looked pretty good according to other reports. Jeremy Hecklinski, the Wake Forest freshman transfer, also made some plays. I think he was the one who delivered that dime to Caden Weechin, Caden Weechin on offense, running routes, making catches down the sideline. That's really good to see for Iowa. I know that they've talked about wanting to use him in more in an offensive role, and so we'll see if that's something that they're going to just show off at Kids Day, or if they're actually serious about that and getting him on the field. I think that Albany game will be a big test of that theory. But yeah, just seeing Mark Gronowski make those plays and seeing the flash, that's what I want. I understand that there was going to be mistakes, the big six on the screenplay. But seeing the flashes of big play potential within the offense through the air was big for me, and also kind of getting our first glimpse into what that week 1 offensive line might look like. Hopefully, with Bo Stevens back there at left guard, he missed the Kids Day practice with an injury, so hopefully he's back in there. But it seems like Trevor Lauk is going to be that starter for now. But it's still a position that, until we see them go out and play well against some big name schools, going to be a question mark.
So you give me a yay or nay on my 5 takeaways. I just published this, by the way, a little while ago to run in conjunction with Iowa Primetime Live for us tonight. But I would appreciate it if you go follow and read my work, Zach's work, MarkRogersTV.com. We kind of already covered this, but you just give me a yay or nay if you think this is accurate. Mark Gronowski flashed some really good and some not so good.
Yeah.
Okay, how about this? And I want to delve a little deeper into this one right here. Seth Anderson appears primed for increased production.
A?
Okay.
I'll meet in the middle with you right there. I hope so. I hope that Seth Anderson is a breakout candidate here. He is someone who's been in the program the longest, I believe, out of any receiver. This is his third year, I believe, in the Iowa football program. So he's someone who's been around a while. He understands playing in the Big Ten, understands playing for Iowa. We've kind of yet to see him put it all together in the regular season. Unfortunately, we've seen some flashes, but we have yet to see it happen in real games too often. And so I'm optimistic after the Kids Day performance. I'm hoping that he's someone that can step up and provide some depth behind Gill and Vanderzee and Phillips. But I need to see it a bit more consistently in real games before I give Anderson a resounding yay. So I'm going to settle on an A right now in the middle, hoping for the best, but needing to see a bit more.
You said Trevor Lauk appears to be in the pole position. They've been rotating those reps at left tackle, and George Barnett had said on Friday that Iowa, he said not to read too much into who was the starting left tackle at Kids Day because everybody in that group of three has been getting some work with the number one left tackle slot and the backup left tackle slot and at left guard because of the Bo Stevens injury. But with Seth Anderson, can I talk you into this? That he's in the pole position as the number 3 receiver for Iowa.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't hear too much about Sam Phillips at Kids Day. I assume you mean 3 behind Gill and Vanderzee, or are you
correct?
Phillips? Yeah. I didn't hear too much about Phillips at Kids Day. Obviously, we saw Vanderzee make some plays, and we saw what Anderson did. So I could definitely be talked into it. Phillips is someone who I think is more of a slot receiver as it is. And so when it comes to Anderson's playing time, I think he'll be competing more for those backup roles on the outside. And I think he definitely has the pole position there as compared to a KJ Parker or someone like that. And so I think I could definitely be, talked into that. He's someone who he fits the mold of what Iowa wants to do in terms of, take a play action shot. He's one of those guys, him and Vanderzee probably are your 2 guys that you feel the most confident about, throw it up and go and get it. And so I could definitely be talked into it. I'm hoping that Iowa State game is going to be huge for him. Can he make some plays on the road as a senior who's been in the program, who knows how much that game means to Iowa? Can he go on the road and make some plays there? That'll be really telling for me. But yeah, I could definitely be talked into that. And I hope that that's the case, with Seth Anderson, who seems, by all accounts, to be just a great guy and a great teammate in that locker room. So I'm really hoping that he gets that big breakout year this year.
Final season for Seth Anderson, and remember he transferred in a couple of years ago from Charleston Southern. But I think your reservations with Anderson are totally fair. A season ago, injury limited him to just the 7 games and a couple of starts. He had just 5 grabs for 106 yards. And again, he's thought to be, dating back a couple of years ago, this big transfer addition at wide receiver that was going to help transform things, and it hasn't totally happened yet. In 2023, when he first came in, 11 receptions for 150 yards and a score. So he hasn't had that big season that matched the expectation of, hey, and I understand Charleston Southern is not Iowa, it's not Big Ten football, but he hasn't produced the 42 receptions for 612 yards and 7 scores that he had at Charleston Southern that you hope that he could create in Iowa City. But again, I'm not going to get too out over my skis from an open practice, though every once in a while I'm getting out over my skis a little bit from the open practice in the spring and Kids Day at Kinnick. I do see, though, the early trappings, Zach, the early signs that I think Seth Anderson, he appeared to me to have a pretty good rapport with Mark Gronowski, and maybe as good of a rapport as Gill or even Van Der Zee has so far. So I thought that was a notable development with Seth Anderson, that he just might be primed to make a lasting final impression. Okay, flipping over to the defensive side of the football, Shire and Intringer were looking for new defensive standouts with the rotating door of the couple of great linebackers, the Butkus Fitzgerald Award winner from a season ago, and Jay Higgins. And, of course, Nick Jackson was a triple-digit tackler a couple of seasons ago, and probably could have been that again if he really, really went out of his way to try to be a season ago. Nick Jackson, very productive his 2 years coming over from Virginia to Iowa. So there's a big hole for Iowa at linebacker. Defensive back, you're losing a lot of experience back there with Sebastian Castro, Schulte, and Harris, and you need a new star to emerge. I'm taking what we saw from Kids Day at Kinnick. This is not a shocking development, Zach, but Carson Shire was flying around. He forced a fumble. Intringer, of course, had the pick six. He laid the lumber on Brevin Dahl at one point early in this Kids Day at Kinnick. I think we have the early makings of maybe Iowa's two biggest stars on the back seven of this defense in Shire and in Intringer. I thought those two guys had great days defensively for the Hawkeyes.
I'm right there with you on those two guys. First of all, how about those Iowa linebackers making plays in their preseason debuts? Higgins and Jackson both with interceptions for their respective teams. And so it's good to see those guys who are kind of fighting for a roster spot on the fringe after going undrafted. Hopefully they're able to make it and contribute. I feel really good about Higgins. I don't know how he went undrafted. That was kind of ridiculous to me. But in terms of Iowa this year in 2025, I think those two names are names to watch. We know the Iowa linebacker room, it's going to be Harrell and Shire who are going to be the first two to get the crack at it. It's good to see Shire, running around and making plays at that linebacker spot. And Intringer is someone that has really caught the attention of a lot of Iowa fans, going back to last year as well, when he was on the field more, he was making some plays, and we all kind of knew with Sebastian Castro and Quinn Schulte leaving town that he was going to get the chance to jump in and play. And so seeing him make that play on the pick six, it wasn't a great job by Trevor Lauk, but it's still good to see Intringer make the play, jump the route, and take that for what would have been a pick six in a normal game. And it's two guys that are really important to this Iowa defense, and a back seven that's not bringing back a whole lot of experience. When you look at it, it's Xavier Wampa and it's TJ Hall, who's also been a little nicked up, according to Kirk Ferentz, with an injury. But outside of those two, it's a lot of new guys, a lot of guys who haven't played too many, starting snaps in big games. And so, it's good to see Shire and Intringer making some plays here early, and hopefully that can, carry over into the regular season.